March 16, 2016. I traveled to Japan with my beloved mom. We saw Mount Fuji, cherry blossom, Meiji Temple, and many more. In the second day of our trip, we went to Mount Fuji by train. Me and my mom were sitting inside the train and we talked and laughed a lot because we were so happy and so excited to be in Japan. But a guy beside us kept looking at us, and at one point he yelled at us and told us to shut up. We were so shocked. This experience had taught me that this kind of problems was because of cultural differences between us. Apparently, unlike us, the Indonesians, Japanese value silence very much. Therefore, it's important for us to learn about these cultural differences. What happens here is we are living in a big world. There are 7.4 billion people living in 5 different continents in 195 countries, with 6,500 different languages and 8,000 cultural communities. Every country has its own unique cultures, different languages, different ways to communicate, and different customs. But how to deal and communicate with these people from all around the world? Easy. You need to learn and understand their culture to prevent miscommunication, and just then you can deal with them that $1 million business contract. As wise man said, understand culture before doing business. Don't worry, guys, we will help you to understand better about the culture from all around the world. And welcome to our first episode. This is Japan. Japan is an island country located in the Far East Asia. There are 126.8 million people living in Japan. Their primary and official language is Japanese, while Shinto and Buddhist are the two major religions there. Japan is originally a country with many kingdoms governed by the emperors. As their country and their military power are growing with what the Japanese called shogun military power, they want to start conquering the outside world. They started invading neighbor countries like Korea, China, and many islands in the Far East. And after their success in World War I, they combined forces with Germany and Italy trying to conquer the other part of the world. However, US and UK were against that idea, and so World War II had started. Eventually, Japan and others has lost to UK and US. After that, US invaded Japan and installed new modern government there, and since then the era of post-war economic miracle have started. And this is the era where Japan economy have grown significantly and become one of the most powerful economy in the world. Because of this rich history, Japan is now well known for the mysterious world of geisha, the martial arts like kendo, karate, sumo, the history of samurai warrior, the foodie's paradise because of ramen, curry, and sushi, and of course the beautiful spring cherry blossom. Even in the economy side, Japan is the fourth biggest exporter and importer in the world. There are also lots of giant corporations from Japan. With a beautiful culture and advanced economy, Japan has become one of the most prospective places for business, and this is why we have to learn their culture. According to Geert Hofstede, there are 6 dimensions of culture: power distance, individualism, masculinity, uncertainty avoidance, long-term orientation, and indulgence. Let us look on Japanese cultural dimensions beginning with power distance. For power distance, Hofstede scores Japan 54. It can be said that they have a medium power distance level. In their education system, they still realize that they are born equally, meaning if people are willing to work hard enough, they can achieve their desired position. However, Japanese are so aware of their hierarchical position in any social setting and act accordingly. Here is a problem for people who don't understand Japanese culture.
Konnichiwa, Joe-chan. Yes, I brought some people with me.
Good morning.
We also need to understand that they have a long and slow decision-making process because all of the decisions must be confirmed by each management layer and finally by the top management in Tokyo. So be patient when having a business with the Japanese. And another thing to remember is that you must respect the other parties and politeness must be maintained at all times. They are also very reluctant to say no. So if they want to reject an offer, they will not say it directly, but instead, you will not be able to get in touch with them afterwards. They will be either ill, on vacation, or attending funeral. Let's turn to individualism. Japan's individualism scores 46. It means that Japan is actually in between of collectivism and individualism. From Westerners' point of view, Japanese are collectivists, while from Asians' point of view, they are actually individualists. For example, when going to a restaurant, the Westerners tend to go alone, but the Japanese usually go with 2 or 3 people. Other Asian countries like to be accompanied by many friends. Japanese are private and reserved, but they also like to put harmony of group above the expression of individual opinions. Therefore, it is important to keep the harmony in discussions with the Japanese and remember about the dignity that Japanese want to hold up high. In collectivist society, people belong to strong, cohesive in groups that take care of them in exchange for loyalty. Therefore, if we treat them just right enough and they put their trust in us, we can gain for their extended loyalty. Now, how about Japan's masculinity? Japan almost tops the world with a score of 95. A high score on masculinity means that the society is driven by competition, achievement, and success. As we have mentioned before, Japan has a mild individualism. Therefore, rather than having a competitive individual behavior, they instead have an intense competitive behavior between groups, meaning it is better to encourage their competitive behavior in groups. Give them a group incentive system rather than giving them individual incentives. In the business world, Japanese workaholism is one of the expressions of their masculinity. So don't be surprised if they ask you to work until late night just to get the job done. Moreover, because of this culture, it is still hard for women to climb up to a higher position in companies. They are kind of sexist. With a score of 92 in uncertainty avoidance, Japan is one of the most uncertainty avoiding society in the world. One of the reasons why they are avoiding uncertainty is because they are often faced with natural disaster risks, such as earthquake, storm, tsunami, volcano eruption. Japan has one of the highest probability of natural disaster with 14.1% of disaster risk. Being so, Japanese people learn how to prepare themselves for upcoming disaster risk. Not only in this aspect, they also avoid uncertainty in business. They believe in perfect planning and feasibility studies before taking any important decisions. They always calculated the risk before proceeding with any project. And this is one of the reasons why making deal with Japan can be taking a long time since Japanese people tend to overview business deal carefully and thoroughly. Because of their high uncertainty avoidance, Japanese has a very high long-term orientation at score of 88. Probably the most extreme long-range planning example can be found is in Matsushita Panasonic Corporation, a Japanese company that has already made their business plan for the next 250 years ahead. In Japanese corporates, you will see a high R&D investment even in the face of difficult times. They prefer to maintain sustainability in the long run rather than having profits in the short run. Therefore, it is in their best interest to see you as their business partner, as a company who value and nurture long-term business sustainability rather than prioritizing short-term profits over it. Finally, indulgence level measured how individuals try to control their desire and impulses, which is usually based on how they were raised. Japan, with a low score of 42, is more oriented toward restraint compared to indulgence. People with restraint have a tendency to cynicism and pessimism, which Japanese usually show it with their high uncertainty avoidance. Besides that, Japanese also do not emphasize on leisure time because they value efficiency very much. They feel indulging themselves is somewhat wrong. So in business setting, it is important to have professional activities and avoid any leisure activities to be seen as efficient by the Japanese. So there you have it, the 6 cultural dimensions of Japan. Though we have learned a lot from Hofstad's 6 dimension, there are still lots of other cultural differences that this theory have not yet covered. And these are few of those differences that only people who have done business with the Japanese can understand. First, as many of you have known, Japan is famous for quality product. Japanese people want quality. And that's not all. It turns out that most of Japanese people prefer small products over the big one. They love tiny cute products. This is important things we need to know when we want to export our product to this country. Japanese consumer behavior and attitudes are changing dramatically. Companies must pay attention and respond to this new behavior of the second largest retail market in the world. So how Japanese consumers are changing? First, Japanese consumers are now hunting for cheaper products. Previously, Japanese consumers are known for their willingness to pay more for quality and convenience. However, now they prefer the low-priced goods and go to discount and online retailer. They buy in bulk to get discounts, despite of their small living spaces. Sales of affordable private label goods are increasing dramatically. In an internet survey conducted by My Voice in September 2009, 37% of Japanese consumers had cut overall spending and 53% are more likely to spend time to save money rather than spend money to save time. Second, now Japanese consumers are spending more time at home. They used to spend time outside because of their long work hours and small living space. Yet, almost 50% of the sample of consumers from the survey are now spending more significant time at home. They entertain themselves at home instead of eating out because of the economic crisis. So in conclusion, we have talked about Japanese 6 dimension of Hofstad and also a few of other cultures. And to summarize it, here are some advices to have business with the Japanese. Be polite and respectful. Top-level management must be presented in a negotiation. Avoid leisure time because Japanese value time very much. Never underestimate or insult them in front of their face. Gain their trust and build relationship before making business deals. Always come prepared with detailed planning and risk assessment. Focus on long-term orientation rather than short-term profit and learn their customer behavior trend before exporting product to Japan. So that's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening. See you guys!
Today I don't feel like doing anything. I just wanna lay in my bed. Don't feel like picking up my phone, so leave a message at the tone. 'Cause today I swear I'm not doing anything.